There is a lot of Twilight Sparkle clones in My Little Pony, some that were literally clones, others were characters that took inspiration or a spin on her character, and some even foreshadowed who she could have been, and others that might get me killed if I ever called them Twilight clones, but it didn't matter because we all loved them. However, there is one pony who started out as another Twilight clone, but that with time became beloved by the community. Minuette. Yeah, you heard me. Sure, while now she isn't regarded as a Twilight clone, that wasn't always the case. So, what happened? How Minuette went from this to this? Well, let's find out. The story of Minuette actually starts in a pretty boring way, especially when compared to other fan-favorite background ponies, as basically she was just another Cantaloupe pony that later moved into Ponyville, or at least she was at this point. And at first she wasn't that popular, shocking, because at this point characters like Derpy, Lyra, Bun Bun, and even Dr. Hooves already were beginning to become fan favorites. Meanwhile, the only thing that fans were doing with Minuette was making art and fanfics with Berry Punch, since the two were sometimes seen together, although it wouldn't be that popular. And it wouldn't be until 2011 when Minuette would finally have her first big moment. In November 2011, an image of a mysterious glittery pony was leaked. This pony looked, well, like a Twilight Sparkle, except she was blue and sparkly, and with the name Minuette, a name that made reference to the 17th century French dance of the same name. Or it could also make reference to the word minute, and judging by her cutie mark, I think this one is the most plausible, and fans went crazy over it. And this sparked some of the very first fanarts that she had, which either looked like Twilight or a blue fluffle puff. Yeah, I don't know why, but it actually happened. And granted, Minuette in the show didn't have a name yet, and at this time the fandom would call her Colgate. Yes, like the toothpaste brand. This was because of the colors of her mane, which looked, well, like toothpaste, with this winning her the name of the toothpaste pony. But Colgate wasn't her only name, because you also had Aqua Fresh, Minty Fresh, and some fans even began to call her Romana, after the Time Lord from Doctor Who of the same name. But none of this stuck, and once fans made the connection between her toy and her show counterpart is when the Minuette hype train truly began, but not in the way that you might expect. In the early days of the fandom, Minuette was depicted extremely differently from how we know her now. For one, she was a sparkly Twilight Sparkle. 2. Her personality was strict, shy, and she was insecure about who she was. And 3. She had time-traveling abilities. Which sounds random, I know, but in a way, all these aspects reflected on how the fandom felt about her at the time. Fans didn't like the idea of a Twilight Sparkle lookalike becoming popular, and you can see this in the early fanarts that she had. Another was her time-traveling abilities. Fans speculated that because she had an hourglass for a cutie mark, she had to have some sort of time-traveling ability, something that also happened with Dr. Hooves, and at one point, fans began to pair the two of them in fanarts and fanfics. Although this didn't last very long, as another more well-known mare would take the position as the Doctor's companion. But this wouldn't be the end for Minuette, as there was a game that would change Minuette's destiny forever. In 2012, a game called Minty Fresh Adventure came out. It was a 2D platformer created by Marcus Maximus. The story followed the at the time Colgate getting tired of her cutie mark, and instead she wants to change it to become a dentist, something that Hasbro somewhat hinted in the show. So she goes to Sakura to ask for help, which in response Sakura says that she can, but only if she brings back a special ingredient from the Everfree forest. So with this, Colgate ventures into a cave armed with a comedically big toothbrush to make her wish come true. And depending on how you play the game, you'll either receive one of 6 endings, ranging from heartwarming to weird. In one, she looks proudly at her new clinic, then breaks the fourth wall to thank the player. In another one, Dr. Hooves congratulates her on overcoming all the dangers she encountered. But when Colgate asks the doctor if he ever found Derpy, a meteorite crashes into the clinic, revealing to be Derpy, and another one even including a surprise cameo from Minty. But what makes this game so important and in a way poetic is that it would pave the way for the Minuette we now know. This was the first fan work that included her show design instead of her toy one. It introduced her iconic oversized toothbrush, which would be present in a lot of art after the game came out, in good and interesting ways. And of course, the idea of her being a dentist, an aspect that has stuck even to this day. And while her old design would get used one final time in another fan game, from this moment onward, the fandom would begin to use this design and starting a new era for the character. Beginning in 2013, Minuette exploded in popularity, and in the span of just 1 year, she would go from being a Twilight clone to one of the most beloved characters in the fandom. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let's not forget that in this year we saw figures like Tootsie Forever making a facts video about her, an animation made by Animated James, who was one of the biggest MOP animators at the time, tons of fan arts ranging from absolutely cute and amazing to funny and silly, and yes, even some weird ones that I will not talk about for the sake of my sanity. And of course, fanfics. Wow, if she had a lot of fanfics. And most of them came out in 2012 when she still was known as Skullgate, and 2013, and it was here where a lot of these fanfics started developing her as a character and her relationship with other ponies. Of course, the most popular ones being Lyra, Dr. Hooves, Derpy, and Berry Punch. This last one specifically seen another boom in popularity, with stories ranging from wacky adventures with the two of them to love stories between the two in both serious and comedic ways, and later even joining Lyra and Bon Bon as spies in Smile. But then you have some unusual ones like Twinkleshine, Lemonheart, Carrot Top, Roselock, Bon Bon, Sparkler, Raindrops, and even Noteworthy.
And what's so unusual about these ones?
Well, remember that at this time these characters were extremely random. Take Raindrops for example, a character that I bet not a lot of you remember, but back then she was a pretty beloved character by the fans, and one that used to be regarded as either Minuette's friend or older sister, and you can see this in the bunch of fanarts that feature them. And while Raindrops didn't hold the test of time, two that did were Lemonhearts and Twinkleshine. While nowadays we know that they were not only friends with Minuette, but also Twilight, but back then this was only speculation and fans ran with it. You had stories where Lemonhearts and Minuette began as rivals and Twinkleshine trying to bring them together, two stories that developed Minuette's friendship and possible romantic interest with Twinkleshine, or stories that included Twilight, painting them as a group of friends that later fell apart. And if this sounds familiar, it's because the show writers took inspiration from fan works to canonize this pairing in the show, and it was in these episodes that redefined Minuette's personality from the strict, time-traveling and insecure mare we first knew, to the bubbly, talkative and friendly pony that the community remembers, which leaves us where we are now. Minuette is still a beloved character in the fandom. People are still making fanfics, fan arts, and of course animations about her. Minuette is a character that, despite not having an easy start in the fandom and not being an obvious fan favorite, quickly changed, becoming something bigger than just a sparkly Twilight clone, and one that everyone grew to love, and one that I don't think will ever disappear. But hey, what's your thoughts on Minuette? Did you know her before or after she became popular? Leave it down in the comments, and remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing for more background pony videos like this one, and don't forget to join the Discord server. And as for me, I'll see you in the next video.